person. It's good to see everybody. It's good to worship our God together and to hear the good message of Jesus Christ. And we are faithful witnesses to the resurrection because we've come here today seeking to hear and to experience the joy and the excitement of a story that is over 2,000 years old. And each year, that story does not disappoint us. You know, our alleluias ring out, lilies dot the communion table, pastel finery is seen, a bonnet or fascinator or two. Thank you, Marcia. I was hoping someone would wear a music bonnet today. It was like, oh yes, oh yes. So a bonnet or two still emerges, and the scent of chocolate bunnies or chocolate eggs and peeps are in the air. Christ is risen.
He is risen indeed.
And we witness that miracle once again today. Now, our denomination, the United Church of Christ, has a slogan. It came out a few years ago, but I always liked it. And it reads, our faith is over 2,000 years old. Our thinking is not. Think about that. So that's an excellent point, because what good is an irrelevant faith? What purpose would it serve if this resurrection story was just an idle tale, as the apostles in Luke's gospel first believed it to be? It's not that there's nothing new to say about the resurrection story that makes it irrelevant for our lives. This, 2,000-year-old plus story. It's that there's everything to say about the resurrection of Jesus. So much so that Paul records it first, believe it or not. And then all the Gospels record it. Matthew, Mark, and Luke were cohorts in the recounting of the resurrection story. But John, he goes maverick. And he writes a very human and endearing story for us to tell and to retell each year. So let us now place ourselves in the Gospel of John, the 20th chapter, and witness what happened on that first Easter morning. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the tomb. So she ran and went to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out and went toward the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down to look in and saw the linen wrappings lying there, but he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came, following him, and went into the tomb. He saw the linen wrappings lying there and the cloth that had been placed on Jesus' head, not lying with the linen wrappings, but rolled up and placed by itself. Then the other disciple who reached the tomb first also went in, and he saw and believed. For as yet they did not understand the scripture that he must rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes. But Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." When she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there. But she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, Why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for? Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away. Jesus said to her, Mary. She turned and said to him in Hebrew, Rabboni, which means teacher. Jesus said to her, Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and say to them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, I have seen the Lord. And she told them that he had said these things to her. Here ends our gospel reading. Now, just like the birth narratives of Jesus that we so adore, with the wise men and the shepherds, the stars, the angels, the manger, we love to proclaim Jesus' resurrection story over and over and over again, because this story, even more than Jesus' birth, is the heart. It's the nucleus, the genesis with the small g of our Christian faith. We read into Jesus' birth excitement and wonder, right? Why do we do that? Why do we get so excited about the birth story of Jesus? Anybody take a guess? Because we know the end of the story. We know the end of the story. And the end of the story is today, Easter Sunday. Although we really know that it's not the end, right? You know that, right? Today's not the end. You got to come back next week. Little plug. There's more to the story. Mary from Magdala awakens early, and it was still dark out there. She takes oils to anoint Jesus' body. She wanted to complete what she wasn't able to complete on Friday because it was the Sabbath. All work ends when the sun goes down. So when she arrives at the tomb and she sees that it's empty, she's, filled with fear. I can only imagine the unknowing, the sadness, the confusion, the panic, all funneled into that one little second when she sees that Jesus was not there. So she wastes no time. She runs back to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the beloved one, to tell them the news, or rather exclaim to them that someone has taken their Jesus away. Well, neither do Simon Peter and the other disciple waste any time, right? They also run to the tomb, passing one another, and I happen to think that's a very lovely little passage, and I can just imagine them running, one running and then the other one pulling back, just tag teaming it to the tomb. But the beloved one reaches it first. He looks in and he sees the linens. Then Peter arrives only seconds later. But Peter, bold Peter, goes directly into the tomb and also sees the linens and the cloth that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. It was rolled up. It was nice and neat, lying aside. So now the beloved, and we don't know the beloved's name, but the beloved also enters the tomb. And it's recorded that he believed right then and there. But Mary, faithful Mary, loving Mary, grieved Mary, begins to weep. She peers once again into the empty tomb, only this time she sees angels gently sitting in the place where Jesus should have been. Her tears flowed, but then she hears a voice, "Woman, why are you weeping? Who are you looking for?" She didn't turn around to see who had just spoken to her. She was fixated on the cavernous void of the tomb. And in between tears, she said, "They've taken my Lord away. I don't know where he's gone." She thought that who was speaking to her was the gardener and pleaded with him to tell her where they had taken Jesus' body, because of course the gardener would have known what was going on. Jesus says, "Mary." And she turns around and she says, "Teacher." And at that moment, that very tender moment, she knew. She probably didn't understand, but she knew that Jesus was no longer dead but alive. She knew at that point she was not left alone in the garden, but had Jesus beside her. And in that very moment, the tectonic plates of the world shifted, and it's never been the same since. You cannot deny that the resurrection did not cast a different light in this world. Out of the tomb came life. He who was tortured and maimed was now made whole. He who was once dead is now alive. Indeed, if you believe, then it has the power to transform your life in ways that you can't even imagine. It's an extraordinary miracle, really. Now you're probably thinking, come on, get real. The world really hasn't changed. The Romans probably got up the next morning without remorse and prepared the crosses for, excuse me, and prepared the crosses for a new set of criminals and troublemakers. Wars have commenced. Hatred and injustice remain. We see that. People starve as the eyes of the indifferent gaze at them. What in the world has changed since that first Easter morning? Well, the question is not what has changed. The question is, who has changed? My question is, have I changed? Your question is, have you changed? Theologian Peter Gomes once said, "Easter is not just about Jesus. It's about you. He has already claimed his new life. Now it's your chance to claim yours." So how will you proclaim your new life? How can Easter possibly change you? It gives you new vision to see with. I think an Easter lens is like a kaleidoscope. You know? You look through the viewfinder of the kaleidoscope and witness the most beautiful arrangement of jeweled fragments. And then you twist it the other way, and you have an exquisite configuration unfolding before your eyes. Each twist is different, right? And unique and beautiful. And all the while, what you are really gazing at might be, in reality, without the lens of a kaleidoscope, a trash heap. Cans, garbage, and broken glass. But there can be beauty that arises out of despicable places. Who among us at one time or another in our lives have not been able to see hope? Who among us has not been able to envision the next minute, yet alone the next few years? Who among us has not been in the cold, dark tomb, just like Jesus? I suspect I'm not the only one in this sanctuary. The apostles moved out of their place of fear and sorrow and carried on witnessing to God's great love and living accordingly. You can too. You can be changed by the twist of your lens because the resurrection has given you new life as well. The Apostle Paul says, anyone who belongs to Christ is a new person. The past is forgotten and everything is new. Today, the tomb could not hold Jesus in death's dark grips, and neither can you. Beauty from ugliness, hope from despair, life from death. Easter proclaims the mighty and redemptive love of God when we can no longer see it for ourselves. And that is our proclamation today. Hold firmly, Paul says, to the message that I have proclaimed to you. If there is no resurrection of the dead, then Christ has not been raised. And if Christ has not been raised, then our proclamation has been in vain. There is no dark tomb dark enough or deep enough that we cannot climb out of and overcome, because Christ has claimed that victory for us. He's shown us the way. Hold firmly to that. The lens of Easter, through which we look at today, is how we shall view all that happens to us in our lifetime. This is no idle tale. Hold firmly to that. We are reinvented, reborn, renewed. We've got a second chance at life because our vision now has been recast with the miracle of resurrection. Wendell Berry ends his poem Manifesto, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front, with a two-word prophetic sentence: practice resurrection. Practice resurrection. Let us witness resurrection today and then practice it each and every day of our lives. And you thought the resurrection was just a story. Amen.